how many scripts would you say you go through?
Every week is different from another, but on a good month where your writers are dedicated and they are churning out drafts after drafts or have new pitch to send across, I would say like a 4 to 5 or a 5 to 6, something like that. Number of pitches in a month's time, broadly, or like on a better month, 9 to 10.
So these are the pitches that the writers are writing to you, or the your writers are writing to the studio?
So, see, the minute I'll just start with the beginning. So, we are the middlemen, right?
Yeah.
As an agency, right? So, if I'm representing someone who's already on my roster, then everything that they do creatively as a writer, director, or any pitch for that matter, it comes to the talent. So, I mean, the talent manager. So, the talent manager reads it and it's like that bouncing board, sort of protective shield from the industry. So, before an external executive producer is letting you know that this is not working, it's your job to proofread it and gatekeep it and improve it and bring it to a pitch worthy stage. So those are one bucket. I mean, that's one bucket. The other bucket is when uh, externally people are sending you something to be represented, or a friend or a talent has recommended another writer that please read their pitch or a book or a feature film or a concept note. That's another bucket. And then, of course, there are good, fortunate days where you have films to review, which means somebody has made the film and they want that to be acquired with the production house or necessarily, particularly with a streaming platform. So if you can be the middleman again in helping them.
Like this is a writer director who has probably approached you.
Yeah, yeah.
But you specialize predominantly in writers.
Yeah, writers and directors. My roster of 15 has definitely more writers and directors. So yeah, you're right.
This is just the people that you are responsible for as the account manager in an advertising agency.
Yeah, like point agent, as we say. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And what kind of relationships do you share with them individually? And do you try to create a community between your the 15-20 people are with you?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I I I take a lot of pride over my roster. They are all creating original IP. They all have ambitions to get the story somewhere or move people with what they've written. And I have like a style with each of them. Like I know which one likes to be on phone calls more and more FaceTime versus those who are more easy and laid back. So I know the way to communicate around them. I also had the fortune to work with people for like 4 plus. I'm working for 7 years now at this company. So some talent I know for 4 plus years, and they've invited me for their weddings, and they've asked some really, specific pivotal questions. So it's you see that there is a value addition clearly, and
Like,
it goes both ways. Like one of my writer talent was getting married, and he was with this person for 10 years, and he had his partner was working in UN, I believe, in Germany, and he had to make a choice between switching between India and Germany. And he said, would this be like a hurdle for my career? Should I not do this? So stuff like that. And I told him that, like, that's like your decade-long commitment. You must go. We'll figure this out here. And we figured it out, I guess. So stuff like that.
what makes you trust them so much?
Uh, I should ask them the question because there's a lot of liability after a point, on voicing or uh, just like knowing that this person is going to ensure somewhere subconsciously that I have more money in my account and I'm more stable in life because it's freelancing. So I would say the question goes to them first. But for me or for our company and the way we function, I think when people are more grateful or when you genuinely sense a connection, and I think that you cannot fake either way. So when they open up to you, when their stories actually tell you who they are more than anything, right? So that's a very lovely relationship because they are like showing you like a piece of their heart, and they're like, "Is this good enough to be sold or not?" And you're like, you have to be gentle and you have to be true to them. Like as they say that an agent has to be the most honest person, right? So it's quite lovely to like slowly and gradually get to the phase where you can tell them that, oh, this is not working, this is, and this is where your goal lies and stuff like that.
Okay, but see, if I was a writer, like
Right.
I do theater in Nagpur.
I
So
see.
we tend to write and direct and do a lot of things. Um, if I were to ask like a third party, somebody who's perhaps not also a full time writer, if I were to ask their opinion, uh, maybe now I would respect it. Few years ago, I wouldn't have respected the opinion of a non-writer or a non-creative person to.
Ah, like that. Yeah.
So you are a creative person, undoubtedly. Like, and I've heard you sing, and I know. So I know you're a very creative person, and of course you are in this industry, so you must be creative. That's part of the job. But you're not a full-time writer, not up until now.
Yeah.
So why do they trust your opinion so much? Like, who are you to tell them that
Yeah.
you're.
Right. Absolutely. So I think it comes from like the base is reliable because I am a screenwriting graduate. So that led to a lot of technical understanding of the hero's journey and the three act structure, the character movement, level of empathy that is required to go from point A to point B. And I think that helped when we were like, I was fortunate enough to sit in front of some really senior and respected talent. And, my founders or co founders or my managers would say, you read the script and you tell them what you think because they know that they possibly will come with zero bias. And even if, we might be different on the levels of connection. Like if I've just entered right after college, I'm just an intern and they have been there for 10 plus years, so they know more. But the company culture is such that they would often say that creatively, like what I think of the narrative or what you think of the narrative or what like a gardener thinks of the narrative, we are all on the same page. We must respect it like that. And of course, backed by technical understanding, the other person knows that you can't fuck around with them. They have a point when they say that this character seems two-dimensional. So,
Yeah.
like that helps.
Hmm.
And I think it's not that they immediately trust me. Like if I've been starting a relationship, we call it like a teething issue time or like a dating phase where we are testing waters, we're trying to understand whether there's chemistry, whether we like talking to each other, whether there is a general sense of, you know, of, like general pleasantness or as against anxiety, which is also there in some talent where your gut just tells you that this is going to be a tough relationship. So that first 6 months, those times like really help you and help the other person also.
Are writers easier to date, quote unquote, than writer directors?
I would say I don't think that's the case. Uh, I think
Like, my assumption is that a writer director will have a stronger vision, will be more possessive about what they've done.
right. Um, honestly, that's I don't think that bifurcation is absolutely fair, but I know some directors who I just know are so talented but are going to come in their way. It's very evident sometimes, and same goes with some writers as well. But like recently, Stolen came out, and the director of Stolen, Karan Tejpal, is also somebody I have the fortune of representing, and he's very chill. Like you don't feel like there is a dominating presence or a presence which is going to hamper the voice. So I think the major difference is whether I am a storyteller because I want to tell a story, or whether I'm a storyteller because you know it's a cool thing to do, and people around me must know that. So
Hmm.
that's the basic difference I feel, and both exist.
Hmm. Okay. So,
I also tend to ramble on and say a lot, so please tell me when to.
no, no, you're doing my job, so I'm more than happy. Okay.
I was supposed to take that.
No, no, no. I mean, I'm glad that you're speaking, is what I
Okay,
mean.
awesome. Cool.
Okay. Okay, so your company has said this about you. I'll just quote you. I'll quote them. Um, okay, no, but before that,
That's a cliffhanger, dude.
but, okay, so they said that, quote, she plays a hands-on role in refining scripts and creative pitches, often acting as a creative sounding board, a word that you used, and developmental guide for talent. So my question is that, do you fear that your artistic sensibilities may not align with the writer director, especially while giving feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. And I I tend to have those dilemmas in my mind, and I'm like, am I being too nitpicky right now because I can be, or it's because it's gonna help them, or is it just because it's too much fun to do this? What is it? And like early on, when I was championing a few indie projects that just like found like a actor but could not find the studio. You know those projects that unfortunately you could not see through. They During those times, our co-founder would often say that uh, you need to know whether you're making their film and enabling their voice in their film, or it's your vision that you're enabling. Because in the third act, or actually maybe in the second act, there's so much that happens that redefines what the tone is. And the tone is very important in these times, right? So whether you're protecting the voice of the talent or you're just shredding it away just because you can, that's something that one has to take an ethical responsibility of. That's step one. But also on the other side, I feel like I believe genuinely that you there's a voice inside a writer where they know that अभी तो थोड़ा काम बचा हुआ है, कुछ और है जो हमको लग रहा है कि हो जाएगा बाद में, हम अभी नहीं कर रहे हैं. That's a relationship, almost like a relationship of solitude between the writer and themselves. And if you're able to strike that trust where when you push and push and push a little bit more, and they struggle and they still get the point eventually, not because it's a fight, but because maybe there is some truth there. That's where uh, that's where it gets really interesting,
So,
because
so
then
are you talking about pushing through procrastination for the writer?
um that is definitely one part of it, because I think that um it's like either you can say that this is my voice, this is what I want to do, or you can say that okay fine, I do see point in what you say. So sometimes वो बोलते हैं कि no, I think this is, I'm very clear about this. Or sometimes आप बोलते हैं हाँ, but this is something that you have to consider. And at the end of every feedback, you have to tell them that it is only a suggestion. We are only suggesting. Everything at the end of the day is your choice, right? So coming back to your question, I feel like yes, procrastination, but also unlocking something that they were not seeing. Like the fourth spot somewhere, like a blind spot of sorts.
Okay, but say for example, you spoke about ethical responsibility. Okay,
Yeah.
and the tone in these times, right? So, like, are you saying that? I mean, I'm trying to understand that. Are you saying that, for example, if a creator has created an art, whether it be a painting or a film or a written script or anything, uh, you may sit there and remind them of how it will come off to society, like how this will look in the eyes of the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. And actually, I would take a step back from there. Uh, you know, that's not something that I start. That's not where I enter. I think that thought has entered much before the ideas on paper sometimes. Because of the times that we live in, you are always thinking about, if I go down this journey for 2+ years for a feature film, or 3+ years for a series, then is this going to lead to fruition? Is this going to be uh, the dream that I have seen, or the dream that I've romanticized? Is going to lead to that, right? And of course, we all know the practicalities of things, but they do think a lot. Some writers more than the others do think a lot about how this will reach audiences. But we tell them, like, at least I find myself telling them that right now your purpose is just expression, inside out. Just focus on that approach. when it comes to me, I will help you with the world and its, adulterations and all that you need to do for this to be a business decision. But your voice needs to come out. If you're already coming from a place of noise, then it's just going to be something mediocre.
So you have to be truthful to yourself in what you're trying to
Yeah.
say. You cannot be affected so much by what is happening in the society.
Yeah, you have to like create that space and say, this is my boundary as a writer. And uske bahar, you have to be somebody who's easy to work with because you know that it's an expensive hobby to make a film and an army of people has to come together. It is more consuming than a family politics at times with respect to how many people are in play, right? So you have to find middle grounds. अगर गाना बीच में आता है और एक सीन कटता है जो आपको पता है कि शायद शायद गाना श्रृंगार रस के रूप में और ज्यादा खूबसूरत कर रहा है किसी चीज को तो you make that choice. You can't be like rigid about it then. But it's a very case to case basis, I would say.
Thank you for mentioning Shringar Ras. Not outside my theater community have I heard that word. So,
Really?
yeah. So, okay, lot of follow ups, but I'll switch to something else.
You gotta tell me if I tend to like spring out with my words sometimes.
By all means, please.
Okay.
You know, so we were talking about the practicalities of filming or writing a project. I was not too long ago. I was talking to Ankur Pathak. I don't know if you're aware of him. He's the writer for Modern Love, the Hansel Mehta episode.
Right.
And I asked him, like, he was telling me how, like, the director's expectation in most cases is ki don't write a scene ki 100 people came and flogged the car and there was a slap that came to the left of the face of the character and he turned.
Yeah.
So don't write with such specificity.
Yeah.
Your job is to write the scene, and because you don't know the scope, whether the film is going to get 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 15 crore, or whatever.
Yeah.
So is that something that you would also prescribe to writers writing?
Yeah, I absolutely would. Because it's the reason isn't that whether this will be a 20 crore film versus a 5 crore film. And that is not the motivator to be better with your action cues. You are better with your action cues because it's your job as a writer to be better with your action cues. It's a screenplay, not a goddamn novel. It's not a verbal diarrhea on paper. I can sit here and I can write about the cottage in front of me, and that can be a very engaging sell if it's well told on a novel. But a screenplay is a blueprint, which is simply two things: what the character does and what the character says, predominantly, right? So that is your thumb rule. Uske upar, how economical you are, where it flows, as simply put, where it's engaging, as simply put. That's your job as a screenwriter. So I remember having read this wonderful script of a young writer whose this was her spec work, and I remember telling my colleague that this is one of the lightest reads, even though it's about patriarchy, it's about a murder and a mystery and whatnot, and finding yourself and suicide. But there is such white space, which basically says that she's simply writing. The mother-in-law puts one chapati instead of two, and it hurts. And you can already visualize that there is a table and sabko rotiyan mil rahi hain, but because she's a little plump, it's and it does its job very well. So can you have fun with that? And there are some writers who have a prose-like approach, which is also fine. Tarantino has that approach as well, which is fine too. But people like Sudeep Sharma, they stick to leaner, cleaner, and neater action cues. But I would also like to believe that Indians are inherently melodramatic, and they must play with it. They must have fun with it, but not at the risk of being verbose.
Okay, so you just mentioned Sudeep Sharma. That's obviously the guy who's helmed Patal Lok, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you say leaner and meaner, can it go into that Christopher Nolan world where every dialogue is an exposition and nothing more, and plot goes from A to B to C?
Depends upon the genre, actually. Like, see, we say that. Funnily enough, I was reading my script actually, the one that I wrote, and I read like 10 pages after the interval. I was like, "तो बहुत खराब है," because it was actually doing that. That it was coming from point A to point B. The story was moving forward, but I wasn't feeling much. And I was like, I want to take a moment and absorb what I've just been told. And it seems that it's almost rushing, even though you are uh, highly recommended to be finishing your draft within at max like 110, at
Okay.
max to max 120, 120, which is a bigger number, round upon. But um really depends upon the genre. For example, if you're writing a romance, or if you're writing something like Veer Zara, and I know that I'm not going into the reality of how the script was put together, but there are some great music pieces, right? It just starts out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is because it's a romance and then you play around with the genre. But when you're talking about a beat where इसके बाद ये होता है, उसके बाद ये होता है, इसके बाद ये होता है, उसमें भी मुझे लगता है कि you see whether this is going to let us go deeper into the character's journey. So then you hold on from going to the next beat, but you stay with a little something that they would do that would move you, or a slapstick something that they would do for that matter. If it's just going to be fun, because Devdutt Patnaik said this about in Indian screenwriting, Indian audiences as well, and Bandra mythology. It's
Okay.
this song that he coined on another podcast with Anupama Chopra, where he said that like if you see these stylish big producers making films, and you know that their offices are in Bandra and Delhi, they perhaps haven't gone to the depth of a mythology, so everything feels surface level. But and also Indians are so used to not actually the Indians don't give a damn about the hero's journey. They give a damn about the thali that you give them. So like scenes that you can revisit. If you even pick Kal now, there are scenes, characters, that little exchange between Saif and Arjun Rapal. No, wait, that's not his name. Forget his name. Rajpal Yadav,
Huh.
yes. A Rajpal Yadav and a Saif, that exchange, that whole set
Yeah.
piece is like a chutney on the platter.
Yeah. So the scene itself has a beginning, middle, and an end, and it can stand alone as a Shimaru outtake that you can see on YouTube as a
Yeah,
collection of scenes.
absolutely.
Okay, but that's also, by the way, a Fincher way of writing, because Fincher recommends writing with a opening with a problem and ending with a question every
Right.
scene.
Yeah.
So I mean, not comparing Rajpal Yadav's scenes to David Fincher's work.
No, but no, I'm not. I was just absorbing what you were saying. But that's what I'm saying, that scene wasn't maybe required. It wasn't moving the story forward, but it just told you a little bit more about how Saif is as a potential husband, which
Right,
eventually,
right,
in some tiny way.
right. So that is another recommendation, that perhaps writers should think of a beginning, middle, and end in every scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And it should be like like if I think Office is a phenomenal example.
Okay. The
Uh,
series.
the series,
Uh,
yes.
okay.
Where something very profound is said on the front, and uh, they just tie a knot to the opening of some comic moment with Andy, and
Yeah.
something very important with Pam. And in the background, he's just a little movement, and you know that, oh, they keep coming back to their tune. They're so
Hmm.
aware of their tune. Not
Hmm.
for a moment they are missing out from it.
Hmm.
So that's where the fun begins. That's where you start to have fun with it. That you like,
Hmm.
I'll just add a little extra to something,
Hmm.
but I'll do like a wrapping around it, and I've set
Hmm.
up something of something.
Hmm. There's also something that I think, again, I think we're just name dropping directors at this point, but Rohit Shetty also said that, I think, with one of the rules with writing his films is that people should be able to pick it up from anywhere. Like if you join in half
Right.
an hour into the movie, you'll be able to tell
Right.
कि क्या हुआ था, क्या होने वाला है. But
Mota
that's
mota. Yeah.
but then that's it's little too simplifying, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
I agree. I completely agree. I mean, if you've seen this film called Secrets in Their Eyes,
oh no.
uh, it's a phenomenal film, and not the remake, not the American remake, but the original.
Okay.
Um, it's it's like I remember not having that experience for a long time, where when I watched any film, I wasn't analyzing. I forgot analyzing because it was so visually and emotionally endearing and stunning.
Hmm.
And it's like, the way it begins. Even if you don't watch it, because you will know कि अभी case solve किया जा रहा है, and clearly there's a chemistry between these two. That visual is the kind of visual that comes in your dreams.
Hmm.
So, how can you
Oh,
miss something like that?
right.
Almost with beautiful films, it's almost like that,
Yeah.
right?
So you can't be counting the number of cuts in your back of your head while watching that kind of a film.
Yeah, yeah. Like it just flows, right? Like it doesn't make you think a lot. A good
Hmm.
film, I would assume, doesn't make you think a lot.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Next question. Okay. So Mr. Upendra Sidhai,
yes,
I saw a little clip, and he was talking about Dil Chahta Hai and
right.
how Dil Chahta Hai wouldn't. Have you seen that clip?
About the relevance of it?
No. So he was talking about how Dil Chahta Hai wouldn't be made, like wouldn't be how, like he was asking ki, how the hell will you pitch
Oh, yeah.
Dil
Yeah, yeah.
Chahta Hai in
We can see.
today's times?
Yeah.
Because the story is literally like three friends. One is a Casanova, other is like a wants to
Yeah.
be a painter, other is
Yeah.
lovelorn, go to Goa, come back. The big interval thing is that they have a friendship that breaks up. So it's all then such a, there's no the head or tail to how you would pitch that, at least from the looks of it. So
Yeah.
how would you draft a pitch for such a film?
Man, I take 5 business days to work on something like that. But
But what is your like top of the head approach?
yeah, for sure. Yes, I remember having watched that clip, and he's completely right about it. That from the outside, uh, fine a developer in any way.
Like I'm sure
Uh,
Farhan Akhtar didn't have a problem making it considering he had his own production house, but like
but
how?
that thing, it is a very good film.
Yeah,
So he clearly did a lot of things right, and I'm sure it was an endeavor, right, on the
yeah.
cast. How would I pitch for it is, honestly, I would start by acknowledging the elephant in the room. That I would say that, of course, this is reminding you of a Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara or a Dil Chahta Hai, or uh, you know,
But those films came after Dil Chahta. Imagine like in 2004, whenever it
oh,
came
like
out.
that. You're saying
Yeah,
that if I was to,
yeah.
I would actually emphasize on. That's what I think I would just have them read the script,
Hmm.
because I was thinking about this a few days ago. I think I was in traffic somewhere, and I remember that scene where it's such a profound scene that our man, who's in an MNC, older, smarter, more somber, Amir Khan's character is inside the car, and he just looks at on the side the college and a few young kids. He's taken down the memory lane,
Yeah, yeah,
and that guy is giving me in this disapproving look. He's
yeah,
like, "Have you done?"
yeah.
You know, that was so, like, exactly what that meant.
Hmm.
That you've fucked around, like you spoiled it for yourself. What did you do? And I would say that when such scenes come together, that's when it differentiates from a film that is three friends on a road trip to heartbreaks, on a road trip to friendship,
Hmm.
road trip to finding themselves. So, like maybe giving them a few nuggets on some really moving scenes.
Yeah. But so uh, as much as it would give me an insight into the story
Right.
and make me want to watch the film,
Mhm.
an MBA executive in the room, sitting in the room, listening to this pitch will, wouldn't they, I mean, I'm assuming that wouldn't their question be, ki, what is the marketability of this product?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely will be. So, see, you like when we are going about pitching something, and I love these content meetings at the office where every Friday morning, where once a month or twice a month we have a pitch where there's a mock pitch. So my colleagues
Okay.
act like this person from Maddox, this person from Geo, this person from Dharma, and they're like, I tell them to like have fun with it. So they
Hmm.
start banters across as well. But in that pitch, they are that voice only, that you focus on telling the story, but these guys are going to ask questions like, but seems like a really big film, or doesn't seem like a great use of my budget currently, because I'm at the end of the year, whatnot, right? So yes, you're supposed to think about that, and you're supposed to ensure that जो आपका ये पैकेज है, ये बहुत सॉलिड,
Hmm.
स्क्रिप्ट है आपके पास बहुत सॉलिड, उसके ऊपर अगर आपके पास डायरेक्टर है, उसने पहले ऐसी फिल्में बनाई हैं where there is a sense of it's moving in nature. It has, like, for example, if I say, um, let's pick something like Bud, or let's pick something like Sirf Khanda Kafi,
Okay.
or Makram Express.
Hmm.
These are mid-budget films which have led to some impact, and Baja Bharat. So that's the first thing, which is the script, the director, which brings sense of tonality and the sense of fun or entertainment that will come with it. And then you have, of course, the cast that makes a lot of difference with the marketability and all of it. You have music, which makes a lot of difference too, and any other interesting packaging element there.
Yeah.
ये तो आपको ये खाली आपको परोस के काम करना पड़ेगा इसको. But first, move them with like the story that you're trying to tell that stands out for its own, you know, unique reasons. And उसके ऊपर आप तैयार हो के आइए कि ये जब आपसे पूछेंगे कि what about marketability? My stance in my career where I am and the way I'm consuming media or looking at media, I feel like be a middle class person.
Viewer. Huh.
And also like a person who's telling the story, because what you're saying is that I will, for this much, bring this much impact.
Hmm.
It's going to be a small budget film. It's going to be within 15 or within 20. And I know the times are not great. World is moving to another direction. Why should this be a good use of your time, your money? For all you know, it doesn't make more than 1 crore. So let me just find a bargain, because I respect that you're putting in the money, respect the risk that you're taking. And then let me make the most out of it through favors, through barters, through deals, through brand integrations and whatnot. That I would say makes them go, oh, they get us, they empathize with us.
Hmm.
That shifts things sometimes.
Okay, so since we're talking about the budgets of like films these days, so Tulsi did your company, I mean, the where you work, Tulsi did this survey research not too long ago.
Yeah.
They asked a lot of writers different questions. So one of the outcomes was, and I quote, 63% writers prefer a hybrid pay structure whereby they can partake in the project's success or failure, but are paid a reduced fixed fee. This portion is higher among non-fiction writers versus scripted series and film writers. So my question here is, if so many writers today are willingly showing so much ownership over a work, where they're saying that although I don't make a lot of money, I'm okay with not making some more money, with the promise that if this film gets released, I'll get paid a percentage of the profit.
Yeah.
Why isn't this hybrid structure just the norm of the industry? Why aren't actors doing this? Why aren't directors doing this? Isn't
I
that a
mean,
way to make films very cheaply?
uh, I I mean, even if they would prefer that, uh, but I would say that as an agent, I would err on the side of, that slightly younger, sensible, logical cousin would
Hmm.
suggest that don't also like don't let go of the money you have in hand while fighting for the profits as
I
well.
see your point. I see your point.
Because like that the possibility of this coming true is there, but not 100%.
Yeah.
You have life happening all the time. So if you're getting a development fund, and of course we fight out those shark producers, then you're right. It should be the way that like, actors are, I think, more. Um, they just easily people decipher it easily when an actor says that I'm sharing the profit, or I'm also
Hmm.
the eat, I'm also the producer. Because जो हमारी मेंटालिटी वो ये है कि किसकी फिल्म है, वो राजेश खन्ना की फिल्म
Hmm.
है. वो फिल्म मेकर, राइटर, प्रोड्यूसर बहुत बाद में आता है.
Hmm.
और अभी ऐसा होता है कि करण जौहर को हम उस वो दर्जा देते हैं एक
Hmm.
तरह से. But that's also taken him a long time. The brand is there and all. But that's the face. So people are like, of course I get it that an actor is sharing IP. वही है ना कि राइटर को काफी dismissive तरह से देखा जाता है अभी भी. Unless you have a personality and a voice, you sometimes do need an agent by your side to protect you from all that you're not seeing in a deal, because you're going by that whim of, oh, मेरी फिल्म बन रही है. Uh, तो या थोड़ा सा बैलेंस लेके चलना पड़ता है इन चीज क्योंकि हाँ, राइटर फॉर्म थोड़े से yeah, they need to be a little more foresighted about the money
Yeah.
matter.
Like every investment can't be a Bitcoin. Sometimes you have to buy an FD or buy gold.
Yeah, yeah, like you have to know that ये मैं अपने like I ask my talent three things कि आप इस साल आपके क्या 3 goals, so whatever it is, treat it. तो एक स्क्रिप्ट मेरी खुद की प्रोड्यूसर खरीद ले जो बनने लगे जिसको मैं डेवलप करने लगूं. Usually that's what I would definitely push them to go for, because that's going to give you the satisfaction even if the money is not. And there's another thing that you do more for money than anything else, but you're also good at that. For example, a dialogue. And then where there's something that you do just phenomenally and principally for your voice, which is making a short. So these three things sort of enable.
The last is a short film, you said, right?
Yeah, like sometimes a writer or an actor has a desire to make a short film. And उनको पता है कि ये सब बड़ी बड़ी चीजें हो रही हैं, but यार मेरी फिल्म नहीं बन रही है जिसकी वजह से मैं डायरेक्टर नहीं बन पा रहा. एक है चीज जो आपको करनी ही पड़ेगी. इट्स अ लिटिल थिंग ऑफ करेज. तो ये तीनों आप करेंगे तो एक तरह से कि this year is going to be fun. And if you achieve this. Yeah.
So your research also mentioned that, and I've not written it down, so I may misquote the exact statistic, but I think it was something like 91% of the writers would have liked to become directors as well because of the ownership that they get. But being a director is a completely different ball game than being a writer, right?
Yeah.
So
it is.
Not every writer can be a good director.
Yeah, correct. Completely agree to that. And I've seen writers who have been very gung-ho and pro only writing.
Yeah.
They're like, हम सिर्फ लिखेंगे और लिखने ही आ रहे हैं. But as cliche as it may sound, ऐसा होता है कि आपने क्योंकि स्क्रीन राइटर तो हो उसका काम ही है that you think in scenes, right? Like you're able to visualize
Visualize.
and write something in visuals, and that's something that comes with time, that comes with practice. कि आप सोच ही रहे हैं एक डायरेक्शन में और एक तरह से. अगर डायरेक्टर विजुअली जो भी करे उसका जो कोर सोल है अगर वही हिला दे, that can be disappointing. So then directors feel like, writers feel like we can also direct. Also, it's not just the thing of frustration or dissatisfaction with the voice. It's also how good are you with people, because the director has to be the captain of the ship, as they say, which means you are just you're this observer or this fly on the wall if there is everything is to the T. And you actually find, like Kubrick said, the most boring thing is to direct. But on the other side, if you're not someone who's that good with people and you have these struggles within yourself to communicate, to push, to delegate, or you just can't maneuver that journey, then maybe it's fine to, be a proper 9 to 5 writer and demystify writing and just get us the best drafts possible.
Right, because I mean, I think I was talking to Jay Oza, by the way, and he was also telling me how cinematography sounds like this most creative process, but a big part of it is just lugging these heavy cameras along and setting up with n number of like direction, cinematography team, and all of that. That is not a attractive process for a writer to go on set and be figuring out the people management and catering and all of. You can't be bothered about all of that, right?
Correct. I mean, as a showrunner, if not as a director, आप director के रूप में अगर बच जाते हैं इन roles से, तो showrunner तो आपको सारी ही nitty-gritty शादी सेटअप कर रहे हैं. आप सोचिए, आपकी बेटी की शादी हो रही है. It has to go through you कि एक कलर फूल का सही लगेगा कि नहीं लगेगा. Smallest से biggest, the casting, all of that, right? तो एक तो ये चीज है ही कि आपको इन्वॉल्व होना ही पड़ेगा, even if you like it or not. That's why you see people like विक्रमादित्य मोटवानी or these guys are naturally flowing with people. They have a sense of figuring out the project management of everybody. But I had a thought which I'm completely forgetting now. Sorry, what was your question?
I don't remember. So that's the beauty. I don't remember what I asked. But okay.
I hope that thought just comes back, otherwise it's going to bother me.
Okay. Let it bother you. We'll move on.
Sure.
Okay. Uh, so again, when a writer comes to you, you have to find it. Sometimes a writer director fit has to happen. I'm assuming you help with that as well. You
Yeah.
find the right director for the writer.
Yeah.
So what are the conditions for a good writer director fit?
Okay. So, sometimes uh, you sometimes help attach a director, and you mostly prefer attaching a director before you take it out to the world, because then the invincible combination and the creativity of it, or the ownership of it, or the control of it stays with you.
Yeah.
In other words, with the talent. But in some situations, when a young writer is writing something, while because of their schedule, you're making them meet some 7, 8 producers in town, and they are quite liking this idea. And they want to get on with it ASAP because the writer needs to get paid because they have their
Hmm.
wedding the next month. Then you will prioritize not sort of gestating over it, then taking it to directors, and then cracking a deal. You'll be like, fine, Dharma, it's fine if you go for it, if you decide the director, as long as I'm getting a development deal on my table. So those bargains you do, but those situations where you do have the time and the courage to make this marriage happen, uh, first you tell the writer why is it that this director is a good choice for you. The rationale is twofold. One is creativity, of course. You make them watch the short film, you make them watch or make them read something of theirs which is closer to this vision, or to something that at a very abstract level makes them realize that, oh, I see this person.
Hmm.
I know who they are
Hmm.
creatively. And second, which is more important, is the kind of people they are.
Hmm.
Are they eager to work? Because अगर आपकी विजन 19-20 है एज अ डायरेक्टर, लेकिन आपको अच्छी स्क्रिप्टें नहीं मिली, लेकिन आप इंसान बहुत अच्छे, so that goes well, you know. Like I said, so it's a auntie's job, matchmaking, and you exchange the work. You make the director, then you talk to the director, you tell them that, hey, you've been looking for something. They have this. Why don't you read this? Once the writer's okay with it. And if they like what they read, then you make them meet. Usually I'm the fly on the wall when I'm introducing one another, and then I let them be so that they can have a very one-on-one temperature check.
Hmm.
They can vibe away, choose a nice enough cafe, choose your best favorite room,
My
and make
God,
some
this
time.
this is like matchmaking.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to ensure that uh, their headspace is fine, that, whatever that thing was that they were personally dealing with, they're out of it. Uh, Timing matters, the headspace matters a lot. So you're basically creating the right atmosphere, sometimes as a manager and sometimes as a director.
So is that relationship, the writer director relationship, like partners, or is it like one is like a mentor to the other, or is more often than not is the director maybe the senior person to the writer?
It's usually partnership, because I also know some writers who uh, want to be assistant directors
Hmm.
for their own films, because they know that अभी हम ready नहीं है फिल्म बनाने के लिए, कि हम बनाना चाहते हैं और ये हमारी फिल्म है, और ये नेगोशिएशन तो किया जा ही सकता है। तो मैं तो हमेशा ही बोल देती हूँ कि डायरेक्टर को that by the way it would be okay if the writer is one of your ladies, right? And that's usually not a problem, because you see already the value addition. We've also seen that with Juhi Chaturvedi and Shujit on October or Vicky Donor, where you know that she brings the soul of so many things. She must be in the room. But yes, it's the director who calls the shots, as literally as I could say that.
You know,
They are
like I was thinking that in our theater also, like we get writers to write and directors to write. So I was thinking that, like, even if it's the National Theatre in London
right.
and Ian McKellen, like Sir Ian McKellen is doing King Lear, and if like he's doing it, he's calling the shots, and then uh, Shakespeare's ghost shows up and starts looking at the play and starts like disapproving, and like he starts saying, what the hell is happening, I don't approve of this, maybe,
Right.
just maybe, And then I'm sure like even Ian McKellen will be like, Shakespeare, just go the hell away, right? So like I feel like a writer present on set could be so unnerving for the director.
Yeah, that's why you ensure that they have that connect. They have that. Uh, they understand each other's boundaries. They've
Yeah.
had those fights. They've had those teething issues, and I love playing through analogies a lot. So I remember my cousin sister was getting married a few years ago, and a month before the wedding, uh, you know, there was this. I don't still remember the reason of it, but मैं अपनी चाची के यहाँ पर थी एंड मेरी मम्मी आई और वहाँ उसकी वो मेरी कज़न सिस्टर, उसकी बहन और उसकी मम्मी और कुछ रीज़न की वज़ह से मेरी चाची और मेरी मम्मी के बीच में झगड़ा हुआ और वो झगड़ा कुछ था ही नहीं, ऐसे कभी हुआ ही नहीं है। एंड वी जस्ट रियलाइज्ड दैट वी जस्ट फाइंडिंग अ रीज़न let off the steam of this
Yeah.
big thing that's unfolding, and people cried after that. Like my
Hmm.
sister cried, and then I cried, and we were like, "What is going on? What is this cleansing ritual that's going
Yeah.
on?" So you gotta let them. Uh, well, as they say that अगर आप एक रूम के अंदर दो कैरेक्टर्स को डाल रहे हैं जो आपके मेन एंटागनिस्ट प्रोटैगनिस्ट हैं और उनके बीच में if they don't want to kill each other off,
By
then
the end of it. Huh?
they don't have conflict to begin
Yeah.
with, right?
Yeah.
So you also, of course, hope that ऐसा हो ही ना, क्योंकि आप जानते हैं लोगों को इंडिविजुअली कि अगर साथ में होता है तो आपको पता है कि ये आपको कॉल करेगा साइड में, ये आपको साइड में कॉल करेगा, आप दोनों वर्जन सुनेंगे, फिर आप बीच में आके बोलेंगे ओके ठीक है फाइन, यूर राइट हियर बट यूर रॉन्ग हियर, यूर आल्सो राइट हियर, लेट्स फाइंड अ मिडल। एंड ये तो होगा ही, और अगर ये नहीं होता है दैट्स व्हेन यू शुड बी लाइक समथिंग इज ऑफ, हैज टू हैपन।
It's not in the human nature
टू कन्फ्रंट,
to not confront.
not confront. Yeah, I would say not in the human nature to confront, but not in the human nature to not have a conflict, right? You're bound to have.
Yeah, exactly.
And हाँ, मतलब एक तो चीज है यार, आपको as a writer, you have to let go. You have to abandon your baby. You have to let it be. आपको विदाई करनी पड़ती है। कि ठीक है, they will trust them with their skill set. और कभी-कभी अच्छी नहीं बनती है फिल्म, कभी-कभी बन जाती है, तो बस seriously तो byline हो what I just said.
No. So, okay. So, are we doing good so far, or are you getting irritated?
I am fine. Are you getting irritated?
No. So no, but I mean, we can continue, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Patrick Graham is again another Tulsea talent. I heard him say that he wants to make the scariest Indian film.
Yes.
And so there's this Jason Blumhouse, Jason Blum, I mean, of Blumhouse Productions.
Yeah.
The other people behind Paranormal Activity and if the greatest scary movies. I think Patrick has also worked with them or collaborated with them on a project.
It's been, I mean, they've connected, but I doubt if something significant has come out
Okay.
yet. Yeah.
Okay. So, what's stopping the greatest, scariest horror film in India to be made?
A good script. Good enough script.
Okay. So, follow-up question is that
Yeah.
how can you tell a story is scary on paper?
Good enough script. I think that's the answer. That's what it continues to be, because, by the way, we are trying to work on something together with Patrick on it's very small budget, with the same hope that the purpose is not to make money, the purpose is not to run your to just focus on a very limited resourced film and a script coming together. So I think he's one of those directors who, is one of those directors who really wants to tell a story. That's something that works on his favor. But I think if you look at an example like Creep, not exactly horror, but somewhere in the middle, what works very well for it is you see the film and you know that beats are strong, script is strong, right? A lot of that is performance. A lot of that is exactly the tone of the director and the director taking it. But you cannot deny that the the minute I get to have you had a chance to watch the film?
No,
Because
no,
I
no,
don't.
no, I haven't. No.
Okay, so if I may tell you a little bit about the film, it's essentially about a guy who goes to a cottage, secluded cottage, where this guy is telling him that he's going to pass away in 3 months' time,
Okay.
and is uh, a whole short film or a documentary that he wants this guy to capture for his son who's yet to
Okay.
be born,
Okay.
and that leads to some. It's found footage, so that leads to some real tension, right? So found footage is a choice, a vision or a tone or a treatment choice that has promised uh, a certain eeriness into the
Hmm.
experience already. We
Hmm.
see that very well with comedy. We see that very well with this because we're trying to make it as real as possible.
Yeah.
Already something that would reassure me if I'm the producer. But on top of that, if you look at the film speeds, the film doesn't stick to one house and terrible shit happening inside it. Midway, the film unpredictably takes our protagonist out of danger zone, but the danger still lingers
Hmm.
because the guy has gotten through to his location
Hmm.
and some pretty creepy stuff is happening. And that is essentially beats, right? And on top of that, a phenomenal director will turn it around and make this something it's going to be a cult classic, you know. But I would say script.
Because I'm sure like these horror films are one of the top three genres that are making a lot of money these days, right? Especially in Hollywood.
Uh, because it's actor agnostic, yeah. But like India is not comfortable with the darkest of directions. They want to find a
Hmm.
release of tension very often. So even if you look at uh, the Ajji film, Shaitan,
Chaitan, yeah.
an adaptation of a Gujarati film,
Yeah.
film doesn't take you to the realm of a child dying
Hmm.
because of black magic. It leads to a protected कि नहीं नहीं इतना कुछ खराब नहीं होगा आपके
Yeah.
साथ. Similarly with horror comedies, the reason why they work.
Right.
So we also are a certain set of audiences, niche as they could be, who would be like, I want to watch that absolute horror film. And उनको भी पता है कि हम Conjuring देखेंगे और Evil Dead देखेंगे तो हमको मिलेगा जो हमको चाहिए. But it's untapped and it's
Hmm.
going to happen. A lot of these chamber thrillers are going to come up in the coming times. A lot of these really interesting, within one location, like game night sort of narratives will come up.
Right.
High concept, we call it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a Knives Out thing.
Knives Out, a game night. In fact, this Akshay Kumar film,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Dil Khel Mein.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good concept. That was a good film. It was an entertaining film. It
Hmm.
was masala, but it was, I would like to argue, way better than something like Houseful, the recent film.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Which is also, by the way, I think set in only one location, that ship that they're on.
Big resort. But
Hmm.
yes, they use location very well.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Absolutely. Have I exhausted you? Okay.
Is this engaging for you? Because I
Yeah,
feel
very.
I are on the side of optimism a lot more. So you might.
Of course, of
I
course,
don't know.
of course. I'll bring down your energy, but you stay optimistic.
No, 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 no. I mean to say opinion wise also. You might talk to another agent in another company or another similar someone, and they might have a slightly duller perspective to things
Hmm.
around currently. But yeah,
Why is that?
that is because डेवलपमेंट जितना होना चाहिए स्क्रिप्ट्स का जितनी फ्रीक्वेंसी के साथ होना चाहिए था उतना नहीं हो रहा है because actors have never been this indecisive in their lives. The ones who know that they have the control to, get monies running and do that. Because अच्छी स्क्रिप्टें लिखी जा रही हैं but उन पे इतना काम होना चाहिए वो नहीं हो रहा है. Because budget slash हो रहे हैं because फिल्में नहीं चल रही हैं for whatever reason. And like the world after pandemic has shifted a little bit with their consuming patterns. We want to experience now. So we would go to a concert and we would buy ourselves stuff and we would open a matcha tea store. But would we choose films or series as a way for recreation or for fun, for escape? We have too many options now. We have a phone in our hands, of course, as well. So many reasons outside our control are leading to such frequency lapses, but it's just very cyclical.
See, I come from theater. So my anxiety levels have been tested, and my depression has been tested and pushed to the maximum. So apart from the every 4 year Prithvi stint or NCPA stint that we do, there's hardly any hope for us. But we keep ourselves motivated
Yeah,
and optimistic. So to an industry to cry over that they're not making 20 crores, they're only making 15 this year, is like, oh my god, I feel so
I
bad
know.
for you.
I
So
completely agree with you. I'm on the same page too. I'm like, guys, come on. Like, ठीक है मतलब मानते हैं कि it's not the best and everything, and not every writer is getting paid, not every writer is as busy as they were. But it's also the time where, the level of natural bullshitting has gone down.
yeah.
People are being a little more conscious of what they're developing, and they're being a little more thoughtful, and they're just thinking through what they want to do.
Mm.
They're defining themselves. Like Dharma currently, I was talking to one of their execs there, happens to be a good friend, and she was mentioning how uh, we are redefining our DNA right now because we have done something with Homebound, which has uh, been a purist journey where you know that you're not going to put song and dance just because it's a dharma film. You won't do what you would do otherwise, but something very sincere with it. And it has perhaps best sales agents. It has got BEP that they got because it's incredible. It's never happened before, right? A Martin Scorsese and a Neeraj Gaiwan coming together for an indie film in
Yeah.
2020. Twenty Khan has been very well reviewed by Dharma Production. Crazy set of people coming together. So people are redefining themselves. And I
Mm.
think whenever that's happening, it's a great time to write and to
Mm.
create because we're supposed to feel uncomfortable about telling a story or choosing to tell a good story.
Yeah.
I feel like our moms and dads have always had this thing कि हमारे वक्त में एक हफ्ते में दो से तीन फिल्में देखने जाते थे. But right now we don't have something memorable like that. And they're right about it. I think we are also not in love enough, sometimes. We should sometimes do it because we know that we can get a gig and we can get an opportunity. So yeah, हमारे लिए stories हम बता. But those in control and those in power who have the power, resources to make films in any way capacity, short film, big film, whichever way, like just please like cut like a part of your limb and offer it to us now. Like that
Yeah.
is the time to do that, right? So it's
Yeah.
okay if it's some tough times.
Mm.
I'm saying that maybe I have some place of privilege, but yeah.
Like I feel like even with OTT, like you were mentioning how a lot of things have changed post pandemic. Even with OTT, I'm seeing a regression back to cable TV with the
Right.
ads, and I never in my wildest dreams thought that I'll see like CID on Netflix. But
Yes, I agree.
something that started with Sacred Games has
Right.
with Kapil Sharma, CID, and all of that happening. It's a clear thing that they want to get more people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, you're talking to somebody who's not going to give you controversial or polarized opinions. Uh, I do tend to see the brighter side of things. And I would say that why the hell not? Like, imagine this, okay? Uh, Look at Geo and look at the rate at which you could buy the subscription.
Yeah.
And the kind of content that you could get for really shitty interface. And that's unlike Nainital. And that's more like Geo though. Anyway, so, you have on this side where it's not the best user experience, but you have so much library, like access to HBO library and whatnot. Like I'm watching hacks on Geo. Who
Hmm.
would have thought, right? But I
Yeah.
am. This is on this side. On the other side, you have your Amazon, जिसकी hobby है. पिक्चर के
Hmm.
films भी बनाते हैं, series
Hmm.
भी बनाते हैं. They have this Prime Video where they've done some stunning job,
Yeah.
however niche, however elite. Then you have your Netflix, who has done very well in the US. In India, they've just entered the place. They want to make a mark, choose the best talent managers, choose the best agents, choose the best creators, and do some fun things like writers' rooms and these contracts and cool announcements. Eventually, you realize that ये वाले अगर audience ही नहीं रहेंगे और अगर कम होते जाएंगे, तो फिर ये तो एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करेगा। तो ये एक नेटफ्लिक्स जैसी जगह, प्राइम जैसी जगह, जो एक आशा की किरण है फॉर समथिंग दैट कुड बी डिस्ट्रप्टिव और लाइक adolescence or
Yeah.
something that be uh, brave in its choices, something that is of the wavelength as yours,
Yeah.
needs to exist. So they need
Survive.
us.
Huh.
They need, yeah, so they need to do better than survive. So like Netflix has had a phenomenal year last. And if they have a Kapil Sharma, and if they have your Mamla Legal Have, they have your CID,
Yeah.
they also have adolescents, and they also have Office. You're basically getting into the habit of habit making.
Again,
And I
that
think,
thali that you were talking about earlier.
yeah, it's a smart thing. Like all these women at these offices are, I would like to argue, making some really interesting choices. And then there are some titles which you are like, kya hi hai? Like
Hmm.
Royals is not logically a good piece of work, but
Hmm.
it has gone to season 2. As a creative person, I would be like, isko mana kar diya, but isko haan bol diya.
Hmm.
Like Kala Pani season 2 is not working, but it's not happening anymore. But Royal season 2 is happening. For whatever reason, I would like to also empathize with that executive who had to take that call,
Hmm.
difficult call. Because ये internationally भी पहुंच गया यार, for
Yeah.
whatever.
Exactly.
So ठीक है. Like, let's do a better job with the season.
Hmm.
Second season, maybe.
Like I watched The Studio on Apple, and that was a great insight on, like, how these people are actually not like these evil executives that you think are trying to kill
Yeah.
are not that. They're,
Yeah, a lot of people have recommended that series to me. I
yeah,
haven't watched it yet,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I assume it would be fun.
Yeah, just
And I,
it gives full empathies to the industry.
yeah, totally. And like, I see there are some people who are not good to it. You
Hmm.
like, let's not work.
Hmm.
Anyway, it's so difficult to set up a film.
Hmm.
Why do we have to work with acid?
Hmm.
Clear, simple policy almost. But there are some really, really ignited creative producers, young development executives, young folks, old folks who are so in love with films, and they have their own personality. They have grown enough in the industry to have their own aura, and tend to respect them for who they are because they tend to respect themselves for the credit, which is rather new, rather niche. But they're
Yeah.
so good at it, right? And they made these choices, which is like the best of both worlds. And you're like, yeah, that's what we want, you know. So
Yeah. Okay, so last three questions before I let you go. First question: can you explain the title "Created by"?
created by.
Yeah, because I thought that was a bit of a. I understand
Yeah,
written by. I understand story by. Created by is where I, especially in the Indian context.
right. Whenever we have these questions in our office, whenever a client is asking me about how much money would I get for this or what would be the right rate for it, usually we have a way of passing the baton because
Hmm.
I'm like, don't talk monies with me. Though
Okay.
I've started to negotiate recently, so I usually go just pass the baton to my Bala team, which is business and legal affairs. But over time, with the little awareness of this terminology, um, so say there's a writer who has written a short film, which has the seeds for a series.
Hmm.
Right? Now, the writer does not have a significant credit as a screenplay writer, enough to be a head writer,
Hmm.
but of course has written the idea.
Hmm.
Now, when it's a series, you get the created by for that IP. That ये जो high concept है,
Okay.
इसके अंतर्गत ये सब कुछ हो रहा है, वो तो
Huh.
आपने create किया. So you're created, you get the created by for it. However, the executives on the other front would like to work with a head writer on this.
Hmm.
So they would tell them कि आप जो writer हैं जिनको created by भी मिल रहा है, वो writers room में हो सकते हैं as a negotiation, while
Okay.
another head writer calls the shots because they're better with series writing.
Okay. But the final call will be with the head writer, not with the person who's created it.
Yeah, because now it's a series, and it's only after their agreement that they see, because you've created a concept, you've created a pilot, you've developed the Bible, you've done your job.
Hmm.
But when we talk about sixth episode में ऐसा क्या होगा जो engagement भी रखेगा alive, it's a really good enough role for the actor.
Yeah.
Executive के साथ झगड़ा भी करना पड़ेगा. तो किसी ने जिसने किया जो उनकी भाषा बोलना जानता है, अगर वो आपके साइड में इनके साइड में इट्स लाइक ऑलमोस्ट लाइक अ मिडिल पर्सन, वेरी इंटरपर्सनली challenging job for sure, head writer. It's better for the series to come together. You're just making a smart choice.
Yeah.
And if you find people who don't hold themselves close to their ego and stuff like that, then maybe, because then you're writing another episode. The second episode, the creator created by guy is writing. तो उनको सिर्फ written by मिलेगा अगर उनका document is verified by the head writer.
Okay.
You know, not enough to put pen to paper to share credits.
Yeah.
Then that's the difference, at least on the scene.
So like created by would be like Stan Lee, who's created Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah, I
But
guess.
he's not necessarily writing all the comics.
Yeah, yeah. But the creation of it, yeah, exactly. But again, in our industry, which is very family run business, जैसे चलते हैं, कभी कभी जो क्रिएटिव प्रोड्यूसर है उसको शो रनर का क्रेडिट मिल जाता है,
Okay.
कभी कभी किसी को हेल्म्ड बाय का क्रेडिट मिल जाता है,
Okay.
तो क्रेजी क्रेजी क्रेडिट्स भी हैं हमारे.
But helmed by is not a WGA. It's
Yeah,
not
I know,
Yeah.
but a very senior talent got that credit recently. It's
Okay.
fuzzy, but ठीक है.
Great. So created by solved. What else? I had a lot of questions for you actually. Now that I'm realizing, is there an Indian blacklist of most liked unproduced scripts?
There are a few. I haven't actually delved into them. I would say I have my own list of those projects because
Please tell me.
you want to know about like there are some projects I would say are baby projects. Like uh, there must be many writers and directors outside my roster who have written things, and I am just beginning. I've just joined a screenwriters club.
Okay,
मैं
nice.
join भी नहीं किया. It's a script reading club and all. So थोड़ा बाहर सीन्स जो हैं मुझे उनकी इतनी अवेयरनेस नहीं होगी एज अगेंस्ट अपने ही रोस्टर बिकॉज 200 प्लस टैलेंट.
Okay.
एंड if you even look at about 100 writers directors, everybody at least has 1 to 2
Hmm.
तो उसमें से जो स्क्रिप्ट्स हैं जो हमको बहुत अच्छी लगती
Hmm.
वो हम मेरे पास वो कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं. लाइक I actually am happy to tell you that there was this one project which was passed on by a couple of streamers and a couple of directors, and it was by this young Bihari writer who we discovered at a pitch fest.
Okay.
And everybody in the uh, like in the industry somewhere were like ये तो बहुत ही outlandish है, ये नहीं बनेगा. And you know, we didn't just rep that writer right away. We just hung on to him. We pushed him to work on the draft just a little more. And then when they reshared their draft, we brought them on board. We connected them to another senior director who's also sort of starting their directorial journey, but has been a prominent editor in the industry. And then we paired this up, and now it's happening with
Okay. So
and
it's happening with some studio?
yeah, like joint collaboration. But
Okay.
the fact that for the longest time, internally or externally, there were people who are like, it's not happening. And you choose to be the delusional fool that is full of conviction on behalf of your writer. You know, you choose to be someone who like would just say something too sweet or too positive for everybody to go like cringe away.
Yeah.
Because that's the strategy to crack a film. I mean, it has to be loud enough, even when you enter as a writer, as a director, where we just know that this part is outlandish, but we believe in this, believe in our conviction. There's something special here, and eventually people saw it. So there's a good example of that. But there are other scripts as well, which I have this one project which I'm so excited about. It's all female ensemble, and the first thing that anyone would say is "Koi nahi banayega," and that's when you know कि this is worth making because
Banana hai.
it's like rebellion mode, like underdog mode all the time. Like just tell me something won't get made, and that's enough fuel for us to go.
No, that's great. Um, what is the telltale sign of a very good writer that has not been discovered yet? How do you tell like he's a really talented guy or a girl?
Okay. Um, So it's mostly a couple of things, but I would start with work ethic. That when you tell them about the story feedback, or you tell them, see, after a point, because feedback is such a consuming journey, you don't want to just do it either for the heck of it or for people who are not to uh, see it as professionally or as objectively as possible. So when you do that, because it's again, you choose those baby projects. So like these are my 10, 15 baby projects, we're going to run with it. So in that journey, you know that an exec on this front and the creative producer on that front and a young intern on this front and an actor on this front, everybody will have different opinions on what the tonality or the choice for a protagonist would be.
Yeah.
That मैं इसको मार दो एंड में मत मारो अच्छा ये एक्टर अच्छा वो उन सब के बीच में the writer who has already like period I am in right now, which is world doesn't know, but I am just so involved in the story. Of course, I've thought about 10,000 things about that one little plot, which again will be dictated again by an external force, and I won't like it. When those things happen, that writer will just see कि हाँ इसमें ज्यादा काम करना है नहीं करना है तो फाइन करना है तो करना है which means अगर ऊपर से स्प्रिंकलिंग करनी है थोड़ा ट्वीकिंग करनी है या फिर पूरा ही मिट्टी निकाल के आपसे बनाना है कुछ that's if you don't hesitate doing that because you're like हाँ मेहनत करने को बोल रहा है इंसान सब टेक्स्ट ये है and they embrace it and they embrace it repeatedly and they embrace it to a point where as an agent you are frustrated because उनको इतना सब कुछ लिखाया जा रहा है without getting paid. Well, you have an original writer there because they are already building that muscle memory. वो लंबे रेस के घोड़े हैं. That's 100% one thing. The other thing is points.
Will they also brutally cut off things that are not working even though they may like it?
Always that little subjective trail where you have to like fight it out and that this thing must exist. But also,
Relent sometimes.
yeah, like I think I mean I have been talking specifically about a certain writer when I'm talking about these things. Uh, and I've seen how gently they go around those lanes, how they make their point in a manner where you're like, "हाँ, चलो ठीक है." But also as they say, kill your darlings, all of that. But
Yeah.
इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि यार मतलब अगर वो कहानी में कुछ तो ऐसा है ओरिजिनली जो मोटा मोटा प्रोड्यूसर और डायरेक्टर और सबको दिख चुका है कि कुछ तो स्पेशल है यहाँ तो वो प्रोटेक्ट करना तो आपका धर्म है यू नो उसके आसपास play around. Anybody who's interfering this zone, they're not a collaborator then.
Okay.
And that only happens when you have had a very detached relationship with that story.
And the second thing you said was about the voice before I cut you off.
Yes. Yeah. Seeing like as they say that the way you do smaller things determines the way you will do big things, right? So a scene and how a scene is crafted and how originally are they thinking about it. Like अभी हम यहाँ पर हैं and can if an animation writer is saying that like two eyes will peek out of that mountain and the mountain will start speaking about oh this is who I am but I was water once. That's maybe in evoking a certain emotion that I've not felt before. But how originally do they think? Like an original thinker, in other words, would lead to a person or a storyteller who has a voice, who is achingly trying to tell something. Like Deep Sharma, I think there was a interview where he said that Pataluk is about desperation and what people do in desperation, right? And so many things around it. Similarly, for a guy who's from Delhi who has had a good life so far, but has seen one gunshot in their life when they were really young and in an impressionable age, how does violence impact their storytelling? And how would they bring forth violence into the most common setup around us? That's exciting for me because that's the world that we're entering into, right? So again, I think how well do they know each other, in other words, to be able to chisel into their personal voice, that original thinking place, that would be another thing that I would be very excited by because there is a possibility that a young writer will be very lazy and very difficult to work with with respect to just procrastination.
Hmm.
But well, they are an original thinker and they have that by their side, and you also treat them like that um, younger sibling who you love so much for all their flaws and everything.
So you will have to have a lot of empathy for their idiosyncrasies or whatever it is.
To a point where it's not hurting people
Hmm.
or yourself,
Of course. At the end of the day, it's a professional relationship.
Yeah, and we see like over time that that writer who has been pimped away for giving that benefit of doubt or cut some slack as they grow senior and as they grow to be somebody they are loved. If they don't either have consistency by their side with the releases or are not good with people, then it's a decline without a doubt. Nothing helps that at all. Nobody wants to work with you after
Yeah,
that.
right.
What a,
So they're digging themselves a grave even before they start.
absolutely. And managers see it too early into the picture.
Hmm.
Yeah, we sort of like almost trace it now. We're like, okay, why are they doing this to themselves?
Well, thank you so much, Namrata, for doing this. If I keep you away from that beautiful view any longer, I think Akanksha will sue me for a crime. And I really need to let you go now. But thank you so much for doing this. Before we end this, is there any feedback you have for me? Anything you'd like me to improve upon?
No, I mean, I really enjoyed the conversation, and I think you asked me some questions that I didn't see coming at all. I hope I have been factually and uh, anecdotally correct about things.
Hmm.
And I mean, I would love to like meet you guys again and have like a
Of
longer
course.
chat about this.
Of course.
Quite exciting. I don't have any feedback to try to pay. I doubt there will be, but I just hope that I wasn't gambling away.
No, not at all. Not at all. And regarding the anecdotes and facts, I think we'll give you some leeway with the embellishment. So
Sure.
feel free. You can
Sure.
embellish a little bit. It's fine. Best writers do. So it's okay.
I
But
Yeah, I hope that we speak soon about a couple of things that are in the process of post-production or pre-production. Uh, and I hope that there is a phase where those released work speaks for themselves.
yeah. I mean, I'll be more than excited to talk to you about anything that is coming out. Tulsi is because initially when Akanksha told me that I was going to talk to you, I was a little skeptical because I was like, I mean, I would rather talk to the talent than the talent manager, and like that.
Right.
Like, I had that in my mind, but then when I looked at the roster of Tulsi and the kind of people that are associated with you, and then I learned about you and the kind of stuff that you've been doing, all those stereotypes just went out of the window, and I realized that if the biggest of the biggest directors are messaging you on Instagram and saying thank you, my career is now in your hands, you must be doing something right.
I mean that, uh, yeah, thank you for saying that. Uh, it's somewhere a job that doesn't invite a lot of gratitude from
Yeah.
outside. And that also happens to be a filter over time of
Yeah.
choose as your people in the industry because it runs on gratitude. I would like to believe. So
Yeah.
thanks for saying that.
If you learned something new from this episode of the Horsemouth podcast, do rate and review us on Spotify, Instagram, X, or wherever people engage with you the most.